Hi, welcome to Lisa Out Loud. I wrote this episode about coercive control through the legal system last week, and I wanted to come on and talk about it. I just didn't get around to recording it last week. So, anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this. I don't think it's discussed enough. I know that it's starting to be discussed more and more, but coercive control using the legal system, and more specifically, using an attorney to continue the cycle of abuse. Does the attorney know that they're part of the cycle of abuse, or are they also being manipulated? So just imagine this. A survivor reaches a final settlement after years and years of an ongoing divorce process. All the issues are resolved on both sides. They agree that the case is over, that there will be no further litigation. It's over. Done. Over. Months later, an attorney sends the survivor a demand letter for money based on the same issues that had already been settled with for good, forever. Both sides agreed that it was over. So the survivor doesn't ignore it. The survivor immediately calls the attorney, wants to resolve it. The attorney doesn't return her calls, so the survivor responds in writing and sends it certified mail, knowing that they have to do it this way. This is the process that the court will recognize. So they begin the whole process of this documentation all over again. So the cycle begins again. So not only is the survivor trying to respond to this in a meaningful way to resolve it without having to go to court, without having to start the cycle all over again, but here they are having to deal with it all over again. And I have to tell you that survivors get this gut punch. So you think it's a part of the abuse, the ups and downs of an abusive relationship. It's like, you know how it is. It's wonderful, it's beautiful, the love bombing is awesome, and then the abuse hits and it's horrible, and then the love bombing happens again. So this is sort of the same thing, but using the court system, using an attorney to do it for them, especially if you're in a situation where you're a survivor and you have protective orders in place. And I have to say that it's even worse when there's children involved. So let me just go on just with this hypothetical story. So the survivor reaches out to the attorney, rejects the demand letter for money, and hears nothing for several months. They're just like, okay, well, I guess that was it. It's over. And then several months later, it's served that there's been a case filed. Another gut punch. So they call the opposing party's attorney and don't get any response. So they reach out via email asking for, to confirm receipt of the email, and nothing. So then they go ahead and send their certified response, and nothing. So they voluntarily say they're willing to provide whatever, they need to resolve this case. And the opposing attorney seems reluctant to respond, doesn't confirm receipt. So the survivor calls the attorney's office, speaks to people, asks for return calls, documents all of this timelines and all of these communication attempts, and sends emails to the attorney stating that they hadn't heard back, and these are the communication attempts and the certified letters that have been sent, and these are the emails that have been sent, and finally gets a response making the demand again and asking for some documentation, which the survivor gladly provides very quickly within 24 hours, and then here's nothing. They ask for confirmation of receipt of those documents that were requested, and again, the opposing party's attorney does not respond. So the survivor goes to work to follow up, makes phone calls, makes a couple of attempts via email, and documents all of that, and then again sends voluntarily more information. All of the information that the survivor sends is to refute the false allegations of the opposing party. They finally respond saying received, that their client has chosen to continue with the hearing unless the survivor will agree to what they asked for. The survivor rejects that and prepares to go to court. This is months in, so this is just imagine the survivor gets the demand letter, responds to it, here's nothing for several months, and then all of a sudden gets a notice that that the case has been filed. Then several months into this, trying to resolve it, they're going through all of this. The survivor is going through all of this, having to go through all of the emails and all of the documentation that they have. So they're sort of reliving all of this stuff that they've been living for the past many years, trying to go through this divorce process and end it. And so here they are going through it again. So the survivor prepares everything that they need to prepare, and they go to the court and they file what they need to file. They file for a fee waiver, and they file to appear remotely because there are protective orders in place in the case, and so they don't feel comfortable appearing in the courtroom with their abuser. So they file all of these things. And mind you, this is probably 10 or 12 days before the hearing is set to go forth, because they have to file a response within a certain amount of time, and they were giving it every possibility to be resolved outside of the courtroom. But now they've been resolved to go to the court. They do this, and the following day they get a call from the courtroom saying that the opposing party has decided not to go forth with the case. So the survivor is elated, of course, because they don't want to go to court. They don't want to relive this over and over again. So it just raises kind of an important question. Was the attorney complicit in the abuse? In other words, did they know that they were part of the abusive cycle, or were they being manipulated? I just want to point out that attorneys often call abuse cases high conflict. And while they are high conflict, I can assure you the high conflict is coming from one side, not the other. The survivor, the victim, is rarely the one creating the conflict. The conflict is coming from the abuser. The abuser is normally the one making wild, crazy accusations, and you can tell because once one accusation is resolved, they will come up with 4 more. And I'm just throwing, that's an arbitrary number. I'm just saying. They continue to make more and more accusations. It never stops. It's their way of keeping their victims in the cycle of abuse, especially when there are protective orders involved. So with that being said, I know all cases are different, but I think that they all have a common thread. I think that this is where it's so important for family law attorneys to be educated in coercive control and domestic violence, and just really be able to know when they're being manipulated or when they're going to be a part of the cycle of abuse. And also, I think that attorneys need to be held accountable for that too, because not only is it hard for a victim to leave if they're lucky enough to get out with their life, then after you leave, it's some of the hardest times you'll ever feel in your life. So it's important that family law attorneys are educated in coercive control and domestic violence and the cycle of abuse. I think it's so important. Also, I'm going to say it again, I'm really advocating for family law judges to have that same specialty education, and it can't be one and done. It has to be ongoing. And they should be coming from a background of family law litigation, not criminal law litigation or any other type, because the same set of laws are not used in those situations. And it's just really, really important because you're dealing with families, and just it's a whole different situation. So thank you for listening today. If this helped in any way or you have any questions, I am so happy to discuss them with you. If this hit home to you, I'm sorry. And just know that you're not alone. And if this helped you in any way or you think it'll help somebody that you know, please share it with them. Thanks for listening to Lisa Out Loud. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.